you think McDaniels should stay with the Pats or take the leap and go to Cleveland?
No, I think he should take the leap and go to Cleveland. When you consider the talent that they have available to them, the fact that the head coach is gone and now Dorsey is gone, the door is open for him to really put his fingerprints on that organization. You've got to convince Haslam to have an enormous amount of faith in you. And obviously, you're going to have a say in who the GM may be. I think that ultimately goes a long way. And then there's the issue of talent. After coaching Tom Brady as the offensive coordinator and the play caller and seeing what you saw this year, him and the Patriots being bereft of the necessary weapons, Josh McDaniels, of all people, should appreciate what it can be like for a quarterback if you have weapons. Odell Beckham Jr. is a weapon. Obviously, Landry is a weapon. Njoku, assuming he comes back from the wrist injury, he is a weapon. Kareem Hunt is a weapon. Nick Chubb is a weapon. You look at the weapons that they have available to them, along with the supposed brilliance of an offensive mind that Josh McDaniels has at his disposal. Why the hell would you stay in New England unless you're just a lifer there and that's where you want to be no matter what? Or unless you learn that Bill Belichick is definitely planning on leaving soon and you're guaranteed to succeed him as the head coach for Mr. Robert Kraft in New England. To me, if that's not the guarantee, then what are you afraid of? Go for it, because the last time we saw you as a head coach, it wasn't ultra impressive in Denver, A, and B, you did renege on accepting the Indianapolis coach job, which was not a good look. The opportunity is there for you right now in Cleveland, and as far as I'm concerned, the only excuse not to take it, is if Mr. Kraft says Bill Belichick is leaving soon and you are without question scheduled to succeed him. That's it.
Worst owner in football is Dan Snyder. Haslam is not that far up the list from Dan Snyder. He's probably not the worst, but he's far from the best or even okay. Since he's owned the team, they've been a laughingstock. And that includes a team that was so loaded on offense last year, on both sides of the ball. They had playmakers and stars everywhere you looked, that I would advise any would-be head coaching candidate who believes they will have other options to pass on this job as a result of ownership. If you ask me how specifically an owner could negatively have a negative impact on a head coach, particularly if Josh McDaniels, say, could name his GM, well, I would say actually that may be an indication that it's a problem. The coach can name the GM. What kind of an organization is that? But even if you say, no, that can work and point to examples, Haslam has been the constant in recent years of a dysfunctional franchise. So in ways that I wouldn't even be privy to, I'm sure that it has negative consequences. But were I Josh McDaniels, I would think I'm getting offers. I will have more offers in the future. I don't need to take my shot playing for one of the worst owners in the NFL I think actually Cleveland's a great market. Even though it's a small market, it's great because the fans love the team so much. But for a franchise that appears to be dysfunctional, I'd pass.
So to your point about it being a dysfunctional franchise and being a bad owner, last week I was on this show and you guys weren't here, and I went through the Seth Wickersham article from a couple years ago that listed all the egregious issues that they had there. So I understand it's a dysfunctional organization, but Josh McDaniels has to be smart about this next decision because he will never get another one. If this fails, he will not. No one fails at two places and then gets a third opportunity. This is his only chance. And so you're weighing the interest of being a part of a dysfunctional organization and maybe one of the worst owners, and also having a loaded roster. There will never be another opportunity where you can walk into a roster that is this loaded. And Stephen A., you mentioned how he reneged on the situation in the Colts, and that owner, and Jim Irsay is another problematic owner who is high on that list. But I wonder if he regrets that, because Frank Reich is doing quite a phenomenal job there, and people revere Frank Reich as one of the best coaches in the league. So I think that even if they say that you could stay and maybe succeed Bill Belichick, I still think you move on, because there will never be another opportunity that a roster is this loaded that it becomes available for you. I think you go there and you have a good chance to have success. You walk in the door with some level of credibility in a quarterback, like above average quarterback. We're not sure how good he is, but I think we can all agree that he's somewhere around average or above average. Those jobs rarely come open with the talent that they have.
Real quick, according to Cleveland.com, Brent Larkin, quote, this is who you're coaching for.
Mm-hmm.
If Haslam had an ounce of fair business sense, his pilot flying J truck stop business probably wouldn't have been forced to pay a $92 million fine to end a U.S. Justice Department investigation into the company fleecing its customers. I mean, like, this is who you're taking the job from. Is that kind of are those kind of business ethics unrelated to a dysfunctional franchise?
I want to ask Stephen A. Can I ask you a question? Because this is sort of personal, being a Giants fan. So apparently, the rumor is that Josh McDaniels didn't want to coach with the Giants because Dave Gettleman is there, but he was willing to consider Cleveland because John Dorsey was fired, so he'd have more control. At this point, do you think the Cleveland Browns job is more desirable than the New York Giants?
Yes, I do. And I believe that because of Mara and Tish. In other words, you got rid of a talent like Odell Beckham Jr. clearly because of your culture. We talked about this about a week ago. Odell Beckham Jr. is not suited to be in a New York Giants uniform. You rave and rave and rave about Saquon Barkley. So there's a particular type of person that you want. Odell Beckham Jr. has never been arrested. He's never gotten in trouble with the law. He is guilty of temper tantrums, and that is about it. Nothing else. But somehow, some way, a franchise that is renowned for its association with the greatest linebacker ever in Lawrence Taylor, arguably the greatest football player ever in Lawrence Taylor. We know about his checkered past. Nobody's ever, and the Giants are synonymous with it. They didn't say anything then. So I just look at it and I say, if you're Josh McDaniels, why be a part of something like that when you got a chance to build something as opposed to having to adapt to a culture that some would deem questionable at this particular moment in time with the New York Giants?
What if Josh McDaniels would have been offered the Giants job, but he could bring his own GM?
Oh, that's a different ball game. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.